I'm just going to look to make sure. Okay, awesome. So hello, everybody. Welcome to Asian Queens in Animation's first panel of the year, landing an internship in animation. This is a part of our Kickstart Your Animation Journey series. And yeah, so we are super excited to kick it off today. And the first thing we would love to do is meet all of our lovely panelists. So I will pass it to Victoria to introduce yourself. Feel free to share your name, your pronouns, if you're comfortable, how you culturally identify, and your internship title, and add on what you're looking forward to in 2022. And then you can popcorn it to the next panelist.
Oh, thank you, Monsi. So, hi, I'm Victoria Lai. I go by she, her pronouns. I'm a Vietnamese person, and also I was a recruiting intern at Titmouse. And what I'm looking forward to like this year is like the new Spider-Verse movie coming out in October 2022. I'm going to pass it off to Lex.
Okay, hi, I'm Lex. I use they, them pronouns. I am half white and half Filipino. Right now I'm a DreamWorks production assistant. I just finished my internship a few weeks ago, and I'm just looking forward to getting back to some of the hobbies I like to do while I try to like figure out like work-life balance. So yeah, I'll pass it to Sanisha.
Hi, I'm Sanisha. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm Indian. I was a creative development intern at Sesame Workshop. And this year, I'm just really excited to spend some time at home during the vacation and yeah, spend time with my dog. Yeah, Duong, I'll pass it off to you.
Hey, everyone's have really good 2020 resolutions. Hi, my name is Duong Nguyen. I also go by Zoe. I am Vietnamese. I am actually from Hanoi, Vietnam. I interned at Cartoon Network in spring 2020 and DreamWorks for spring 2021. What I'm looking forward to this year is going outside more, bringing my plein air kit so I can do some paintings, and also a mid-ski concert in March. So I'm super stoked for that.
Yes, oh my gosh. Hopefully concerts and everything will come back up. I know at least for me, I got tickets to Olivia Rodrigo, so I hope it doesn't get canceled because I will be so sad. But yeah, thank you all for introducing yourself. And I realized I didn't introduce myself, so I'll just quickly do that before asking the next question. But hi, everyone. I'm Mansi Songkra. I'm the founder and co-director of Asian Queens Animation. I'm currently in my day job at DreamWorks as a production assistant. And yeah, so I'll just pop to the next question, which I would love to know, what was your reaction to getting that first call or email from the recruiter about either the interview or the offer? But yeah, trying to recollect how it felt. Who would like to answer first? And then you can popcorn it.
I can go.
Okay.
So I saw the job posting and I was sort of like, okay, I'll just apply for the sake of it. You know, I don't think it's gonna go anywhere because like, why not try, right? So I was super surprised when I saw the email. So yeah, that goes to say like everyone like try that you don't like you're not missing out on anything by trying. But yeah, it was definitely super exciting, super surprising. And it was like within a couple of days after I applied to, like maybe 3 or 4 days after. So yeah, it was just super exciting to see that pop up in my email.
Awesome. Victoria, would you want to share next?
Oh, sure, yeah. So I also was like very surprised too when I got even just the email first. And I was like, whoa, I didn't expect to actually get it since it was my first ever like animation related internship experience. But yeah, I was just honestly really glad to receive that chance to get interviewed and actually meet with the interviewer. And then later on, when I got even the like another email saying like, oh, you got accepted for this. I was super surprised about that too, because I was like, oh, I didn't know I was gonna get it. And especially like I remember I was at like the library doing homework and like with a friend, and then I told her we both couldn't contain our assignment. We just like did like a celebratory like, little dance. But yeah, that was my experience.
Zoe or Lex, would either of you want to share?
I can. Yeah, I applied to the DreamWorks internships like several times. And one of the times recently, before I got the email that I said I was accepted, I got a call from an unknown number. And in my mind, I was like, you did just like recently apply to like some internships. So like, maybe you should pick it up. I have like phone anxiety. So I let it ring for a while and then I picked it up and then it was like, hey, I'm from DreamWorks. You want to talk for a second? It's like, yeah. And I think after the phone call, I like yelled and then I got takeout food and that's how I celebrated.
Well, I had two types of different reactions with my two internship news. So for Cartoon Network, at the time, I thought I was like an international student and I didn't think like I would have a chance. So I was like really surprised to even get an interview, and I was already grateful for like reaching that part. But then when I had the internship, I was like in such disbelief. Like I remember I was in class and then like Lex, an unknown number called, but it says like Burbank at the bottom. So I was like, oh my gosh, it's probably like the internship news. And so I like sped outside the class and I was in such disbelief. I had to ask like again, like, oh, does this mean I had the internship? So yeah, that was like really crazy. And for DreamWorks, I was still really surprised. And when Rabia called, but I was able to like contain my excitement, like letting the recruiter like do their job of breaking the news. And yeah, I was just really happy and grateful to have the chance. And I guess I celebrated with like, sushi and boba after. I don't know, but anything among that realm. Also like takeout or something. Yeah.
That is incredible. And also for people who applied for internships, check your voicemail because sometimes some emails got, at least for me, like I had a recruiter call me and then it didn't go through, but then a voicemail was there. And then I freaked out when I saw it and I was like, oh my God, how long ago was this? Because it's not often that you look at your voicemail anymore. So please check your voicemail. But yeah, thank you all for sharing that. I think it's really cute when, especially when you try for so long and then finally it just happens and we're just like, what is going on in the world? So yeah, thank you for sharing the story. And also boba and takeout, both amazing options, and celebrate the celebratory dance. But yeah, now I would love to learn a little bit more about what life in the job was like and what it was like being an intern. So what was your day like and what were some of the tasks you were assigned? Did you have the same daily tasks or did it change every day? We can start with Sanisha.
Sure. So as a creative development intern, I was of course working with the creative development team. I had a mix of daily tasks, weekly tasks, and sort of tasks that popped up as and when my supervisor needed help with something. So something I worked on daily was making news reports. I did research on industry trends in the children's media industry and sort of put that together to sort of circulate within the development and production team. And I also made monthly trend reports where I sort of did the same thing, but instead of looking at weekly news, I looked at overarching trends throughout the month. So that was sort of what I did on the regular basis. But apart from that, I sort of helped out with whatever the team needed, like making schedules, attending meetings, things like that.
Awesome. Victoria, would you like to go?
Oh, yeah, sure. So what I did for like the task as a recruiting intern at Titmouse was like mostly like sending out tests to candidates, like such as like animation tests, cleanup tests, or character design tests. And then like later on, we would communicate with the people who work on the show. I think it was like the directors. I'm not too sure, but it was like the people who worked on the show, and they would like review their tests and see how well they did, and like we then would organize and see like, oh, did they get accepted for that, or like was it they didn't do well for the test. So that was like a lot of the most of what we did for the test as a recruiting intern. And something else that we also got to do is actually get to sit in during interviews. It's such as like taking notes when people are getting interviewed, and like also seeing like really what makes a portfolio and our portfolio stand out, and also seeing like how people talk throughout the interview and how comfortable they are with that. And that's like really like a really kind of like big overview of like what we did, but there was like other tasks we do, like a lot of what a recruiter does in an animation studio.
That's great. And Zoe, how about you? What was your experiences like in both the internships that you had?
Yeah, thanks for asking. But for Cartoon Network, I interned on We Baby Bears, so it was in the very beginning of the show. By the way, the show just came out last week. Please check it out. It's super, super cute and beautiful. Everyone worked really hard on it. So yeah, I was there for the early parts of it. So there was only like the board artist, the writer, the production crew. There was only like one person in the design team, the character design at the time. So I was there more for like the beginning parts of it. And I got to go to voice recordings on Tuesday. So I went on 2 days, Tuesdays and Friday. And on the mornings, I would go to the recordings, learn about circle takes, see how the voice director and the showrunner like interact with the voice actor, and see how that's synced up with the boards, and go into a lot of like board pitches and writing meetings. But one thing about Cartoon Network's internship that's really special is that they really encourage interns to do their own pitch Bible. So that's what I worked with. And I would ask my production crew, the showrunner, the writers, the board artists, everyone about their opinion about my story at the time. And that's what I would work on, other than, helping production crew with like distributing paychecks to the artists, and help with signing hours and learning about the pipeline in general. And I think one of the coolest thing is I also got to draw some birthday cards and goodbye cards for the crew. And I think that was like a nice way to get to know the people, and yeah, like draw something nice for them. And for DreamWorks, I was much more like involved in the pipeline with the Cartoon Network internship. It was like a really good start for me to understand what like 2D animation consisted of, because before I didn't know anything. But with DreamWorks, I was like actually doing things like, taking notes in meetings, like breaking down an episode, like a script breakdown, like updating Shotgun with assets. And yeah, my PA taught me everything. And then by the end of the internship, I felt like I have a stronger grasp about like what it takes to make a CG animation show. The Croods also came out, so please check it out. But yeah, very thorough stuff.
That's really, really cool. Lex, how was your experience? You also did the DreamWorks internship, but on another show. So was it very similar, or did you do other things as well?
Yeah, I would say it's pretty similar to what Zoe described, because we were both production interns, and usually at DreamWorks, production interns are very involved in like weekly meetings for like design reviews or animatic reviews, where we help take notes and distribute those notes to the artists for them to revise their work. It's a very, very heavy communication role. A lot of the job is like emails, but I don't know, it's just like really interesting because we also spend a lot of time communicating with like our overseas partner studios for animation. So we'll constantly be sending like assets and notes back and forth to them. And yeah, it's just like really cool how much communication you can get with all different types of people from the internship. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for answering what you did every single day, which is, I know a lot of people ask what the life of an intern is like, and a lot of you have different experiences. Recruiting intern, I had no idea what a recruiting intern did. So thank you so much for sharing. Another question, and also we got a couple of questions in the chat as well that match with this, is how did you make the most of your internship, and what's something you learned during your internship that you want to carry throughout your career? And we can start with you, Lex, if you'd like.
Yeah, that is a good question. I'm sure like other people who've done DreamWorks internships can attest to this, and I'm sure it's probably like common in other studios as well. But with DreamWorks, they really encourage interns to reach out and talk to people who are already working there and learn more about what they're doing. So even if it's not related to what you're interning in right now, but it's something you're interested in learning more about, like you could be a production intern, and even though during your internship you don't really make art necessarily, you can still talk to the artists, like storyboard artists and visual development artists, and learn their like daily work process. And they're always more than happy to talk with you when they're available. So that's one thing that I would say is so advantageous of getting an internship, is you have that extra time to just chat with people and get to know them and what they do. And other than that, I also just like, I attended any event that was listed, like because you don't know if you're going to be hired after that. So you want to spend as much time as possible with any like intern events, or like sometimes at DreamWorks we have like figure drawings, so I would go to that. And yeah, I don't know, just taking advantage of all the time that you have there with those people and those like extra events that they have.
Yes, and all of the DreamWorks boxes. I remember seeing a lot of stories that you posted of all the gifts you've got, which is incredible. So even as an intern, you can sign up for all of those goodies. Zoe, how was it for you?
Yeah, this is a very good question, because how I made the most out of my internship for both of them is like I ask a lot of questions, just like Lex. I tried to meet up with a lot of people, and being an intern, you're encouraged to, you know, meet with people that normally, if you're not an intern, you don't really get the chance to talk to. Yeah, and as an intern, you're there to learn. So everyone is very excited to help you out, like this young intern. So that's what I did, because I wanted to make sure I understand the pipeline and really know like what all the jobs there are in the studio and what people do, and their experience and advice as well, like maybe an advice for them at like when they were younger, but and also like what like a real advice when you're already like in the industry or something. Sometimes people talk about like, oh, how about like healthcare and insurance, and I think those are very practical things. And yeah, and I thought that was like a very good like use of the time to also go to events and learn as much as possible. That's, you're there to learn, so don't be afraid to ask questions and be proactive. And you can find different ways of being proactive. So what I did for the DreamWorks internship, I volunteered with Monsi and another intern, Cameron, to be an intern ambassador. And that way I was able to get closer to, you know, other interns as well, because they're going to be your friends and they're going to be your coworkers in the future too. So definitely like ask a lot of questions and meet a lot of people and get close to your fellow interns.
Yes, that's awesome. And yeah, being an intern ambassador was really great. And it's always a reminder that the people you're interning with or just working with in general, you're all going to find each other again. So it's nice to connect when you do meet. But how was the experience for you, Sanisha, in development too?
Yeah, I'd pretty much say the same. Like, I think the best part about being an intern is just being able to talk to everyone, really being proactive about talking to whoever you want to talk to and learning about what they do. I think they really even appreciate that and give you the time to do that as an intern, which is so great. So yeah, basically everything Lex and Zoe said was accurate for me as well.
Yes, and you have like the shield of the word intern. So you can add that and just email anybody in the studio, and you may or may not get a response. But if you do get a response, so like Sanisha said earlier, don't not try. But yeah, Victoria, do you have what stood out to you, and how did you make the most out of your time as an intern at Titmouse?
Yeah, so I made the most out of my internship at Titmouse by saving like portfolios that I thought stood out to me, such as like, since for me, I'm like an aspiring character designer, I really want to do design stuff like that. And so any character portfolio I saw when I was like reviewing them, and I would just like, yeah, save it and put it in a folder so I can look back on it, whether it's like they had good shape language or they had like really great draftsmanship, and like I want to try incorporate in my own portfolio as well too. But yeah.
That's awesome. And people, as we're answering, are asking a lot of questions about applying and standing out. So the first question I would love to ask you about that topic is, what do you think, looking back at your application, what do you think made you stand out this time around to have gotten an interview and gotten the offer?
For me, like I think what made like me like kind of stand out in my application was that I at that time I did like volunteer work for Rise Up Animation, and what I did was I helped launch a campaign, like a social media campaign called "What Does Rise Up Animation Mean to You?", where I illustrated these like social media posts each week in order to like showcase the mentees' responses for what Rise Up Animation meant to them. And I think it's really important to have like that kind of volunteer work related to animation, because it really shows that you really are like someone that really cares deeply about animation and really passionate about helping other people. And yeah.
Would anyone else
Yeah.
like to add on? Yeah, go ahead, Sanisha.
I totally agree with Victoria. I think at my interview as well, I was asked a lot about my volunteer work, and I think that's really what helped me stand out, especially helping here at Asian Queens in Animation and Women in Animation. I think or companies really value that. So yeah, look for those volunteer opportunities. You gain a lot of transferable skills through them as well.
Awesome. Would you like to popcorn it to someone?
Zoe, you want to go?
Yeah, just like Victoria and Sanisha said, like giving back to the community means a lot. Not only for, like to make your application stand out, but it's for yourself. Like that's where you meet a lot of friends and people who are passionate about the same things and working towards the same goal, and learn more about the industry from, either guest speakers or just like panels like these. So like how Asian Paints and Animation is also an organization you can join and be involved with. That's what I did for my club, the Pencil Mileage Club. I brought them with me. And it's a on-campus animation club at CSUF, but if you can't find an organization within your club, just like Victoria, you can volunteer for like outside organizations like Rise Up and Latinx Animation. There's just so many. And maybe start a Women in Animation chapter in your campus if there's not one already. So I think being involved in clubs that give back to the community is like one of my biggest advice. And other than that is being yourself and tell your story in your cover letter. One thing I did with my cover letter is that I talked about how US cartoons really influenced me, my love for animation growing up in another country. So I think that also made me stand out for who I am, and my love for diversity on television, especially nowadays. I like showing appreciation towards that. I think that also helps. Like I think that's helped me stand out. So just be yourself and show what you're passionate about and give back to the community.
Yeah, I would agree. To add to giving back to the community and volunteering, you can also include anything that you've done outside of animation. Because I think for me, my application stood out because I had like political volunteering on my resume. That was something that like I was passionate about, and it shows things like good communication skills, and it shows that you're also like a well-rounded person who has passions outside of animation as well. So definitely, like if you do any like community service around like your community, that would be great to include. And another thing is, if it's at all possible, like for me, I was able to talk to a DreamWorks recruiter at a career fair event at SCAD like last year. And it was just like a 5-minute chat. But if you are really nice, really patient, and you use your time effectively, sometimes they'll remember your name and they might like flag your name for further review while they're looking for candidates. So that's something to keep in mind with like networking, is sometimes it does go a long way for them just to see your name.
Yes, definitely. And sort of to add on about the volunteering outside of animation, I see a lot of people asking in the chat about work experiences, because when you're an intern, you don't really have a lot, especially when you're in school. And don't be afraid to add retail and food service experience to your application, because those have a lot of transferable skills into what it means to be in just whether in production or whether in on a team, because you know communication, teamwork, fast-paced environment, all of that. So don't be afraid to add that as well. And another question that we also have in the chat as well is, what was the interview process like? So once you had that first communication from the recruiter, what was the process? How long was it? Yeah, feel free to share if you're comfortable. I can pass it to Victoria.
Yeah, so my like interview experience, I remember going into this Zoom interview, and the first thing that was like said by the interviewer was like, "Oh, I really like your earrings," and I was like really surprised. It was like, "These are the earrings I wore. I made them like a long time ago, but I wore them during the interview, and we just had like a little conversation about earrings." And she also, this person also makes jewelry too in their own time and earrings, so we just like connected over that. And yeah, that was like the first thing. And then later on, I introduced myself, I said my grade, and one of the first interview questions they asked me was like, "Oh, what was like working at Rise of Animation like?" And I explained to them what I did there. And that was something I didn't expect, but it was like something that I guess stood out in my resume. So they wanted to learn more about that. And also something else that was asked too was these questions that were in the application. There was like 3 questions, and one of the questions I think was like, why you're interested in recruiting? And I stated my reason why, like I wanted to do recruiting, like learning more about what's like being in the animation industry, and also what makes a portfolio stand out, and like stuff like that. And that was kind of like my response to that question. And later on, after they asked me a couple more questions, they explained like what a recruiter does at Titmouse and kind of explain what the job is like. And later on, they asked me like, oh, do you have any questions? And I asked like 3 questions. And I think 3 is like a good number of questions because like, I don't know, 3, I feel like 3 is like a magical number. And so I asked my 3 questions to them, and later on they would answer back. And that was like basically the interview for me.
Sanisha, would you like to answer how your process was like? And then you can popcorn it to someone.
Sure. So my interview for Sesame was a little different from other interviews I've taken in the past. It was a phone interview as opposed to like a Zoom call. So I thought I would be less nervous about it, but then I also was thinking about how to seem like I was actively listening, because over the phone you can't really nod and show that you are actively listening even though you are. So that was something I was nervous about going in, but just like Victoria, it started out very casually and it started out very comfortable. And yeah, we just went over, it was a pretty short interview, I'd say about 30 minutes, but we went over questions, typical interview questions, like tell me about yourself, why are you interested in this company and this position, and just a little bit more about my experience in specific. So yeah, that's pretty much how it went. It was very comfortable. And again, yeah, on the phone call, it was a little different, but once it started off, it was pretty comfortable.
Awesome. Zoe or Lex, would anyone like to go next?
I can go.
Awesome.
So yeah, my Zoom interview was with 3 people from the show's production team, and I was kind of intimidated because I feel it's like a whole panel of like people that you're talking to for some of these. But I feel like when you like first enter that Zoom room, it can be like kind of awkward because you're just like sitting there and you're like, hello. But I feel like for me, why my interview went so well is kind of similar to what Victoria spoke to, with like making just a natural connection with one of the interviewers. Like I entered the Zoom and I saw that one of the people had a piece of art behind him by a relatively obscure modern artist, but I like that art. So I was like, oh, I love that artist too. And it was kind of a more like natural intro to the interview that kind of helped get like a natural flow that is like less like awkward and more like friendly, you know, because a big part of why they're interviewing you is they want to get a good sense of your personality. They want to see if you'll be a good personality fit for the team. So yeah, being like having that really friendly, positive tone of voice, like almost professional, but almost like conversational, like they would want to get to know you more, was a big thing for my interview. That definitely helped me. Do you have anything to add, Zoe?
Oh yeah, no, that's for sure. Lex hit it with the, like, you know, it's a casual conversation too. It's getting to know both ways. For Cartoon Network, the interview process was split up in 2. After the application, they send, when you advance to round 2, they would send you a link where you would talk virtually, and it's not with anybody else. It's like almost like a recording, and they would have like questions, and you have like 2 minutes to prepare and like a minute or 2 to like present your answer. So after you make it through the virtual interview round, you get to meet the crew or part of the crew. I got to meet the producer, production manager, and the showrunner. So quite intimidating for the first in-person interview, but it was like before COVID. So one thing I do advise is that, you're there to interview, be nice to everyone that you see. It doesn't just matter about the people in the room. It's like even, everyone in the elevator. It's just like, it also helps prep you in like a good mood and like warm up your social skills before the actual interview. And yeah, the interview, everyone just talked about like, my work experience with like the club I was in and just why I wanted to be there. So I think one of the biggest questions that everyone would ask is like, why do you want to be here? So prepare to tell a little bit about yourself, about your story, about why you love animation. For DreamWorks, it was entirely virtual, so I got to set up with different teams. And because it was virtual, you kind of want to like a little bit like give a little more energy to the rooms because they can't physically like feel your energy. So wow, that sounds so spiritual, but it's just kind of true. It's like you want to like play it up a little and be genuine, be yourself, and the interview is for you to learn about the team too. So use that opportunity to learn and see how both of you like, get along. So yeah, basically what Lex said, but also it's like an opportunity for yourself too.
Yes, exactly. I just want to emphasize that it's a two-way street. And, like when you're in school or college or whatever, there are like lots of people in the same interests, same everything, but sometimes you just don't click, and that's okay. It doesn't, it's not a bad thing. So interviewing is sort of like that. They just want to check your vibe. The reason they interview you is because they know you can do the job. They're just trying to see if you fit with their team. So if you don't get it, that's okay. You'll find another show that fits you. And then when you do, you realize like, oh, this makes so much sense and why it didn't work out. So yes. And then we got a lot of questions about interviews that I sort of want to pop into this. We had a question about how you dressed in your Zoom interview. Did you dress formally? Yeah, feel free to share your thoughts. Me personally, I dressed up like super formal. I even wore like heels in the kitchen just to, feel like I'm in an interview. But yeah, how did all of you dress for your Zoom interviews? And whoever would like to go, you can start and popcorn it to the next.
Oh, well, for me, what I wore was like a white cardigan, like a oversized white cardigan, and then underneath I wore like a top, and that was basically my outfit. And I wore like these earrings, and then something else I also wore was this bandana, but I tied it around my neck, so it was like almost like a necklace or something. And that was kind of what I wore during the interview. And something I remember the interviewer told me like later on when I was during the internship, when like they actually gave me like feedback of like how I did in the interview. And they said, I asked them like, oh, is it okay to like dress like more like kind of like a nice kind of casual, instead of like the formal like suit and tie attire where it's like black and white. And they said like it's really good to like wear, like it's okay to wear like colors in your outfit, because we're working in like a creative industry, like everyone like creative and stuff like that. So, and also it's a good way to stand out too, since people will remember you more like for like from what you're wearing, instead of saying like, because like it can be really hard to remember someone if everyone is all wearing like the same colors, like all black and white. But that's what I learned from my feedback in the interview. And I'll popcorn it off to Zoe.
Oh, thanks, Victoria. Yeah, for my Cartoon Network interview, I also wore like something more like business casual, I would say. So to keep my like flair, I had like also like a necktie and my lucky shoes. So I would say wear something that makes you feel comfortable, even if it's something small. Even if it's a pin, like make it a good luck charm for yourself and you'll feel more confident. But for the DreamWorks interviews, I wore something also like a cardigan or like a button up, but anything that you make you look presentable and professional, but also like don't be afraid, just like Victoria, like wear something that shows who you are.
Sanisha, would you like to share?
Sure. So mine was a phone interview, but I still, like you said, Monty, I like wearing sort of business casual no matter what kind of interview it is. It kind of gets me in the zone. So yeah, I was wearing a sweater and dress pants. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I wasn't wearing any jewelry or anything, but yeah, just having even on Zoom, like I like wearing like full pants because it really, you never know when you're gonna like stand up maybe or grab something. So just in case.
Yeah, for mine, I wore a white button down, which is very boring, but very neutral, professional. I did wear shoes so that I felt like I was like doing something. And I also did have like a lucky jewelry item, like Zoe. I had like rosary necklace that I really like. And I did my makeup in a way that makes me look more awake. Get a little eye bag concealer. But yeah, mine was pretty simple, I would say.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that everyone has like a little charm. I remember for my interviews I wore I have this little necklace with an Uncle Iroh, like with the white lotus thing. And I'm just like, what would Uncle Iroh say? And I'm like, yeah. So awesome, that's great. And we got a couple of questions about interviews. So one question, which I thought was kind of cool, is were you surprised by any questions you were asked? Was there a tricky question? If so, like what was it and how did you answer it?
For me, I think the question that was most surprised by, I already like said this before, but it was the volunteer work question, like related to what I did at Rise Up Animation. Since in past interviews, I wasn't like asked that kind of stuff. It was mostly like the basic kind of general interview questions, like tell me about yourself and like what your weaknesses and strengths. But yeah, that was something I didn't expect. So I just basically I tried to reflect, like remember back in my mind, like what I did at Rise Up Animation, but I didn't like hesitate when I was answering that question because I was like really passionate about Rise Up Animation, like doing the work for that organization. So that response came naturally to me.
Did anyone else have any tricky question?
So for me, I wouldn't say it was tricky, but just something I wasn't expecting. So I have a little interest section at the bottom of my resume, and I have giraffes under there, and I was asked like, why giraffes? So like I didn't see that coming, but I was able to talk about it since I love giraffes. So.
Why not giraffes?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, Zoe and Lex, do you would you like to add on? If not, we can move to the next question, but in case you wanted to add on.
Or Cartoon Network and DreamWorks, everyone was really nice to me, very kind. So I didn't felt like too surprised with like any trick questions, like everyone's not there to trick you. If anything, the harder question would be like, let's like a difficult situation you were in. But I want to say I interviewed for like a NIC internship, and one of the very surprising questions they asked, like, oh, what type of salad dressing would you be, or like what type of salad dressing do you like? And to me, I answered that like, oh, it's the salad dressing my mom makes. It's very simple, but it reminds me of her. So yeah, I didn't go anything fancy like ranch or anything, but I thought that was a very unique question.
I've heard people have been asked the question, what color would they be in a crayon box? I'm not sure how you're supposed to answer it, but maybe it's because like a color, people associate with like personality, like yellow is kind of like happy and positive, I guess, but that's a weird question I've heard about. But Lex, did you have anything you'd like to add on?
Yeah, I didn't have any like tricky questions like that. The only question that I remember giving me like some anxiety after the interview was just, do you have experience with shotgun? And it was, since it's such a like point blank yes or no question, and I know technically my answer is no, I felt really nervous about that one. But I basically just said I do not have professional or like experience, like collaborative experience with ShotGrid or shotgun, but I have like been looking at tutorials like to self-teach myself that software, and I've used like similar equivalent softwares. So like ultimately my answer was no, but I wanted to make it seem like I'm very willing to learn, fast to learn, and that like ultimately wasn't a problem in the end. So yeah.
Yes, it's all about how you sell yourself. Really, that's everything like in the industry, which goes to like a question that I'll ask after one other interview question. But yeah, it's all about selling yourself and being confident, because you gotta, no one's gonna voice for you. You sort of have to voice for yourself and, you know, make the opportunity for you. So yeah, the question that a lot of people are asking as well is, what are the questions you ask in the interview? Either like you can mention your favorite question, or you can just say, what are the questions you typically ask? But yeah, Sanisha, would you like to start?
Sure. So just to emphasize, like asking questions is really important. You're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you, and you need to see if this company and this role is the right fit for you. So I think one question that I just love to ask in general is about the company culture, just about the person's journey within the company, before the company, and just how they like working there. You really get a sense of the team you're going to be joining, and the personalities you'll be working with. So I always like to ask that question first.
Victoria, what are some questions you like to ask? Because I know you mentioned your like magical three.
Oh yes. So one of the questions that I remember I asked was like, when will like they make a selection for this position? Like when can candidates get to your back? So I know, because I know for some positions when you're applying, they either like might not reply to you, or they will like reply to you saying whether or not you got rejected. So that's why I want to make sure about that, so that I don't have like any misunderstandings along the way. Another question I asked is like also like what are the hours and how flexible they are, so I can see like how that can work within my own like school schedule, since like this internship was during the school year. And then a third question, I think like this is like my top favorite question, and also like Sanisha kind of already said it, was basically like, why do you like working here at like this studio? Like what do you like working about here? And like it's getting to hear like what they really enjoy about working at that place, and also getting to know about them too.
Lex or Zoe, do you have an ad? Yeah, Lex, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, similar company culture questions are always good. I usually go with like, does the studio have any like outside events or learning opportunities, like outside of work or in addition to work, that can help their artists or production staff grow? Because like personal growth of the employees, if the studio cares about that, that is really good. And like, to me, it's very important, because it shows that the company is invested in like keeping their employees and like improving their skills. Other than that, I did ask how the production has been affected like by the pandemic, and how they're adapting so far, and what their future plans may be. I get kind of tired of talking about the pandemic, but it's still like an important question to ask, because you do want to know if they plan to move back in office soon, because that will be important to your decision. So yes, Zoe, do you have any questions that you ask?
Yes. If during the interview, if everyone hasn't explained us already, I would also ask how involved I'd be within the pipeline, like specifically in animation, or you can also say like, what are my duties, or like what would I be expected to do, and how can I make the most out of the internship? I think that's like a good question for you to come out of, like to learn about just the pipeline itself. But I also, like Sanisha and everyone, Victoria, I want to ask about like the team's culture. So lately, what I like to ask is, what are fun activities does the crew do together? Because while I was at DreamWorks, like everyone had like, sometimes they have like happy hours. There's like fun organizations. You can meet up sometimes. So I like to learn about that and see how each company or each team interact with each other. And some people would be like, oh, we haven't got to do that lately. So that is a good reminder for us to like do like something fun. So that's like one of my favorite questions to ask so far.
Those are all lovely questions. And you can also ask, well, depending on, the vibe that you get, you can ask fun questions. Like I don't know if this was the question that tipped the team in my favor, but I asked them about their Hogwarts house. At the time, it was like 2020. So then they got really excited and they were like, we're all like Slytherin, but there's some Hufflepuffs that are like sneaking in the team. So, just you can ask those fun questions as well. Sort of like asking what salad dressing you are. You could throw a tricky question at them too. Yeah, and we are getting close to our 1 hour, so I will close out with a couple of our audience questions. So one question we got is, have you ever felt, this is kind of like a deep one, have you ever felt overwhelmed or like an imposter being thrown in? And how did you overcome it, whether in person or virtually? Because especially in work from home, you're just like working from your room and not like in an office, so it feels kind of weird. But how did you overcome it? And what was your experience like having working at a studio, like all the studios are working at? It's kind of scary sometimes, but yeah, feel free to share your experience, and whoever would like to start, feel free to answer and popcorn it to another panelist.
Well, for me, I remember, since this was my first ever like animation related internship experience, I did feel like a little bit overwhelmed at first when we were being explained like what a recruiter does and like explaining like what the tasks are done, how are they done, and also what to do for those tasks. So I was like, I was first like very overwhelmed by this. And also, since I feel like I'm a person where I feel like I'm more comfortable when the person's like face to face can tell me in that kind of situation. But this was like all over like online, I was like, okay, I have to like adjust this to this kind of like situation. And the way I tried to adapt to this is like I would try to like teach myself off the side on these tasks and make sure like I go over my notes and like on what the tasks are and like how to do them, so that I make sure that I don't make any mistakes. And if I do have questions like along the way, I make sure I try to like ask my supervisor and also connect with like the other interns too, since like they're also doing like the same tasks as me. But yeah, like eventually over time, I did feel like much more comfortable in that kind of like environment and also like working and doing all those kind of tasks.
Yeah, I think I had imposter syndrome pretty much every day of the internship. So every day that I logged on, I just wanted to feel like I was being useful to my team. And I would try and like go out of my way to do at least one thing that I felt was useful to my team that really helped them. And sometimes like if I didn't do anything useful, I was probably like learning something, like taking notes, like Victoria said. I just remind myself that I'm an intern. They don't expect me to do the job, they want me to learn. And I also just remind myself that I do belong there because they chose me. Like they would not have picked me if I wasn't qualified and they didn't like me. So I had to kind of like tell myself those things every day. It is hard sometimes.
Yeah, I had a similar experience. I mean, this was my first animation industry internship as well. So it was definitely really intimidating to go into it. But I think what really like kept me going was remembering that this is a learning opportunity and they really do want you to learn. So yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah, I think everyone says that your first job in the industry will always have imposter syndrome or some sort. And with my Cartoon Network internship, I did experience like imposter syndrome almost every day too. And what also helped me is like I ask a lot of questions to like make up for the fact that I want to make the most out of my time here. I am learning, and especially like being kind to myself is like the biggest thing that has helped me. After the Cartoon Network internship, I learned from the imposter syndrome. So my DreamWorks internship, I felt like much more better, like more confident in myself because I was like kind to myself, not because like I feel like I was a better person, but like I was like, you know, I'm allowed to learn and make mistakes, and it's okay. I'm an intern, and that really helped with my imposter syndrome. Also, like said, like you gotta trust that everyone, they chose you for a reason, and they are very smart people. They are working in the industry, so they make good judgments. So you can also learn to trust them too.
Yes. And we actually, Zoe, if you're comfortable with answering, we had a lot of people asking questions about applying as an international student. Were you an international student when you were applying for your internships?
Yes.
Do you have any advice for, because a lot of people are asking, like, how do they know that they're eligible, or are there different steps you have to take as an international student? Feel free to share your experience, because I know a lot of people are wondering if they're excluded from opportunities or how it is.
Yeah, for sure. I'm happy to help. For most internships within the US, they open it for like college students. So you do not kind of have to be like either in college or university in the US and have like a student visa. And with the student visa, you're qualified to get like a curricular practical training, it's the short for the CPT, and that will allow you to work while you're still in school for a certain amount of time, part-time. If it's in a summer internship, with over like 40 hours a week, you will have to use like your OPT time, and you can look more into that. But yeah, if you're a student in the US, you're open to get internships within the US. Now, if you're outside of the US, it's a little trickier because, you know, labor laws. But I know that DreamWorks, their virtual internship, they're opening it like internationally. Maybe I'm wrong, don't quote me, but I remember seeing that and I was really impressed for like the opportunity they're extending. So yeah, just read their terms, and most of the time they will say that you must either be a citizenship or you're like eligible for like a visa or something. So yeah, like look at the requirements. But if you are curious, please just message me online, and I'm happy to talk about it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I know we're at our 1 hour, so I would love, can we ask one last question before wrapping it up? Awesome. So we got a question about, which is another deep question, which is after being, at least for me personally, I relate, after being rejected multiple times for internships or even the same program, what kept you going when it comes to applying? And yeah, what do you do when you sort of are about to give up, but then you don't? Do you have any advice for that? Because yeah, I know what what that feels like.
I think this type of question really resonates for me because I did not get the DreamWorks internship my first few times applying. Like, first time I applied, probably didn't even look at it. Second time, I actually did get an interview. And I had my interview. I thought it went really well. And then a month later, I got the rejection email. It was like crushing. And around that time, I was graduating. And by the time that the fall 2021 internships were rolling around, I was at my 6-month mark post-graduation. And that is the latest post-graduation you can be eligible for the DreamWorks internship still. And I figured this is literally my last chance, so I should still apply. They remember me because I've been interviewed before. And I during the period between those internship applications and interviews, I reached out to people at the studio, at DreamWorks, just to get some feedback from them, or chat with them about what it's like working there. And usually those people were very, very encouraging. So whenever I got to talk to a professional like that and they would give me advice, I would feel more inspired after. And I think interactions like that are kind of what kept me going to keep applying. And I'm thankful that I did, because I got it on my last eligible try. And it was really hard for so many months, but I don't know. It's just sometimes it really does happen. And it's really cool when it does.
Something for me, what really kept me going, was because I remember before I applied for the Titmouse internship, I applied to other animation related internships, and I remember getting rejected by those, but I tried not to let those make me feel any less than my worth, because I feel the people, my mentors, for example, at my college, they really helped me a lot, supported me. I remember one of these mentors that really stuck out to me was this person who actually took their time out of the day, around 8 p.m. at night, to actually do a mock interview with me and do it over and over again to get more used to it. And that person really stuck out to me so much, and helped me get so many awesome opportunities come up, such as the Titmouse internship. So I feel really staying close with your mentors in your life are is what really actually helped me feel a lot better about myself, and not beat down myself for getting rejected by those kinds of internships I applied for.
Yeah, just echoing that, having a support system within the industry and knowing that you're not alone when you're dealing with this, because this is definitely not my first interview. I've been through rejections as well in all stages of the application process. So it's really normal, and being a part of communities like Asian Queens, for example, is just really helpful to know that you're within this community and you do have a support system. Another thing that was really encouraging is to just see your growth every time you apply, just seeing that little change in your resume or your cover letter, and just seeing how you're growing each step of the way. It's just showing you that you're one step closer to getting that position one day. So keep trying. Yeah.
Yeah, I think everyone gave really solid advice, and being involved and continuing being involved within the community really helps you going, and also it's also helps you get experience outside of an internship as well. And the earlier you start applying, the better, because you get more experience in applying. But sometimes Some people are rejected not because they're not like qualified yet, but sometimes they prioritize like either like seniors or like graduate students. So if you're still in school and you're like getting rejected, like don't feel discouraged yet. Like keep on going and stay involved in different ways. So definitely like echoing what everyone said.
Yes, and sort of to tie it, we are having a workshop next weekend on Sunday about how to build connections virtually or even in person. So if you're not getting an internship right away, you know, there's other ways to stay involved in the community, and some things, at least maybe I've assumed that all of us done, is connect to people, not only for job opportunities, but just to have friends within the animation community, whether they're in the industry or not. So feel free to tune into that if you want to learn about how you can do it. And I do see a question that I'm not going to pass around to everybody because it's fairly easy, but the question was, how do you find internships? And so I'll just pop in the chat. There's like this Google spreadsheet that someone puts all the job listings and internship listings there. You can look through that. And I think that's international, so it's not only the US. But your best bet for looking for internships is just looking through all the studios' work sites. That's the best way to do it. Don't really trust other applicant, like, you know, there's some platforms where they say you can apply here, but sometimes it doesn't go through. So always apply through the studio's official site. You can also apply through LinkedIn as well if it takes you to the site. LinkedIn is also great. You can go to each studio that you're interested in, or, you know, all the studios. I remember I went to every single studio, and you can put job alerts on when, you know, things get posted so that you can do that. And there's also a lot of community discords. I know for Asian Queens in Animation, we have a community discord for the Asian Queens out there. So we can send the form to sign up in that, and people share job postings and internships on there. But yeah, there's lots of discords and communities, and hopefully that spreadsheet also helps. But LinkedIn and looking at websites is the best bet. I mean, I know for me, I constantly just check, you know, their job portal every other month to see, you know, if there's opportunities. But yeah, and if you're connected with recruiters on LinkedIn or Instagram, I think a lot of people are on Instagram now as well. They'll post about it there too. So yeah, I hope that answers, because I saw a lot of people asking how to find internships and the job. So hopefully that answers your question. But yeah, I just want to wrap up and say thank you to the lovely audience and to our lovely panelists for sharing your experiences and for coming and sharing just your story. This is your beginning, so we're excited to see where you head off to from now. Hopefully we'll have another panel about, I don't know, like everyone being, like Victoria being an artist in the industry, and, you know, all of that. But yeah, thank you so much for being a part of this panel. Thank you, audience. You'll probably get a kind of recap email at the end. So yeah, thank you all for coming. if you guys want to say bye, I'll just end the live right now. Oh gosh. Bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Thanks for having us.
I'm checking if it ended. Yes, the stream ended. I'm always